What really happened on the 23rd of January 909 AD? Come with me and let's find out.
Ready, Manchi? Manchi.
Here we go. It was on this date that St. John of Rila performed the miracle of feeding the poor of Bulgaria with 2 pies. Back then, the poor of Bulgaria comprised exactly one person, my poor ancestor, Stander Delaney. St. John wanted to be a hermit so he could pray to God all day, but he was an excellent baker, and people kept coming bothering him for pies, which meant he'd lose his place and have to start again over and over again. Eventually, to get away from them, he moved to the Rila Mountains and lived in a cave where people got the message, except for Stander Delaney, who loved pies. When his source of pies was removed, Stander Delaney started to starve. One day St. John found Delaney lying on the ground near the cave, too famished from hunger to even roll up his trouser leg to scratch himself where he itched. He took pity on the poor man and helped him into his cave, and then went into the kitchen to make the aforementioned 2 pies. While the pies were in the oven, St. John asked God what could he do to finally get the peace he so desired. Although he didn't say anything, God was listening, and the last thing St. John did was call Delaney into the kitchen to get at the pies.
Hello, there's my gorgeous friend. It's tickle time. It's tickle time.
When Delaney went into the kitchen, there was no sign of anyone else, but Delaney barely noticed. He had eyes only for the 2 steaming, golden brown, crusty pies, and he laid into them. Then, sated, he returned to town. But he didn't go alone. God had taken mercy on St. John and turned him into a falcon, because nobody ever wanted anything from falcons. But he had turned him into a falcon that Delaney couldn't see or hear, because Delaney had been very mean to those birds in the past. Delaney reached town, and St. John was so delighted that nobody was asking him for pies that he started laughing like a maniac. This terrified the other town people who could see the falcon, and they started throwing stones to chase Delaney away. Confused as to what was going on, Delaney returned to the mountains where he lived, getting extremely fat on stolen sheep pigs, sometimes with a side salad of moss. Then, unable to bear the loneliness any longer, he returned to town to ask people why they didn't like him anymore. Once again he was followed by St. John the Falcon, and this time people were even more terrified, thinking the huge Delaney had come to eat them. So they reached for their stones. St. John realised he had gone too far, and he took pity on Delaney. He protected him with love. The stones bounced harmlessly off Delaney, ricocheting back into the crowd that had gathered, and killing dozens. In anguish at the pain and suffering he had caused, St. John flew away from Delaney as fast as he could. But once he'd reached a certain distance, the magic failed and he turned back into a human, crashing to the ground and dying. But I mean, you can't really blame Delaney for what happened. He just liked pies same as the rest of us. And anyway, he died shortly afterwards, when an itch he had never gotten around to scratching turned out to be fatal and killed him.